What happens when one of Latin music's biggest global stars turns 3 sold-out nights at Los Angeles' SoFi Stadium into a celebration of music, culture, and unexpected collaboration? Karol G has just given fans a new reason to relive one of the most talked-about moments from her ongoing Viajando por el Mundo Tropitour. And this time, Bruno Mars is at the center of the story. Karol G has released a highlight video reel capturing the energy, emotion, and unforgettable moments from her sold-out 3-night run at SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles. But among the spectacular performances, massive crowds, and behind-the-scenes moments, one appearance immediately stands out: Bruno Mars joining Karol G on stage to perform their collaboration, Still, for the first time ever during her tour. And if you are a fan of Karol G, Bruno Mars, or major live music moments, make sure you stay with us until the end, because this performance represents much more than just another surprise appearance. It gives fans a closer look at how one of the most unexpected musical pairings of the year came to life on one of the biggest stages in Los Angeles. So, what exactly made this moment so special? The answer begins with SoFi Stadium itself. For 3 consecutive nights, Karol G transformed the enormous Los Angeles venue into a celebration of her music and the connection she has built with millions of fans around the world. The Viajando por el Mundo Tropitour has already become one of the defining chapters of her current era, and the Los Angeles shows added another major milestone to that journey. The highlight reel now gives audiences a condensed look at those unforgettable nights. Fast cuts, massive crowds, Karol G commanding the stage, fans singing along, lights sweeping across the stadium, and then suddenly the energy changes. The camera catches Bruno Mars. For fans who had been waiting to see Still performed live, the moment immediately became the centerpiece of the entire reel. Karol G and Bruno Mars standing together on the same stage was already enough to create a massive reaction. But the significance goes deeper because this was the first time the 2 artists performed their collaboration together during the tour. That detail is what makes the footage so important. Still is not simply another song appearing in a concert setlist. It represents the meeting of 2 very different musical worlds. Karol G brings her unmistakable Latin pop and urban influence, while Bruno Mars brings decades of inspiration from funk, soul, R&B, pop, and classic performance traditions. Put those 2 identities together, and the result becomes something much bigger than a standard collaboration. It becomes an event, and Los Angeles was the perfect place for it. The city has always been one of the most important centers of global entertainment. Hollywood, music, television, live performances, and international pop culture all intersect in Los Angeles. So when Karol G brought the Viajando por el Mundo Tropitour to SoFi Stadium, expectations were already enormous. But the arrival of Bruno Mars changed the atmosphere completely. The highlight video captures the excitement without needing to explain everything. You can see the crowd. You can feel the anticipation. You can see Karol G and Bruno Mars sharing the stage. And for a few moments, the enormous stadium feels less like a traditional concert venue and more like a global pop culture moment. This is where the story becomes especially interesting. Karol G has spent years expanding her audience beyond the Spanish-speaking world, becoming one of the most recognizable names in contemporary Latin music. Bruno Mars, meanwhile, has established himself as one of the most versatile performers of his generation, with a catalog that crosses pop, R&B, funk, soul, and retro-inspired sounds. Their collaboration creates a bridge between those audiences. Latin music fans get to experience Bruno Mars in a different environment. Bruno Mars fans get another opportunity to see Karol G's enormous live presence. And both fan bases suddenly have a shared moment to celebrate. That is the power of a major collaboration. It can create an entirely new audience around a single performance. And that is exactly why the Still performance at SoFi Stadium has attracted so much attention. But there is another layer to the story. The highlight reel does not only focus on Bruno Mars. It also reminds viewers why Karol G's 3-night Los Angeles run was such a major achievement in the first place. 3 nights. One of the most recognizable stadiums in the United States. Thousands upon thousands of fans. and an atmosphere built around a superstar who has turned her tour into a worldwide celebration. The scale of the production is impossible to ignore. Every transition, every lighting sequence, every costume change, every camera angle, and every interaction with the audience contributes to the larger experience. Karol G is not simply performing songs. She is creating a world. That idea is reflected directly in the name Viajando por el Mundo Tropitour. The tour has become an extension of her artistic identity, connecting different cities, cultures, and audiences through the same musical experience. And when the tour reached Los Angeles, that global identity became even more visible. Then came Bruno Mars. The timing could not have been more effective. Instead of making the collaboration feel like a separate event, his appearance became part of the larger story of Karol G's Los Angeles takeover. The crowd reaction tells the rest. For many concertgoers, seeing a collaboration performed live is one of the rarest experiences a fan can have. A studio recording can be played millions of times. A music video can be watched whenever someone wants. But a live collaboration is different. It exists only in that moment. The audience is there. The artists are there. And once the performance ends, the exact experience can never be repeated in precisely the same way. That is what makes the first ever live performance of Still Together so compelling. It is a moment that fans can document, share, replay, and discuss, but they can never completely recreate the feeling of being inside SoFi Stadium when it happened. And now Karol G has given fans another way to experience it through the official highlight reel. The video compresses the emotional journey of 3 nights into a fast-moving visual story. 1 second, Karol G is performing in front of a sea of fans. The next, the camera cuts to the crowd. Then the production explodes across the screen. And suddenly Bruno Mars appears. That kind of editing creates a natural pattern interrupt, because viewers already know they are watching a Karol G tour recap. Then the appearance of Bruno Mars changes the entire direction of the story. It is the kind of moment that makes people stop scrolling. It makes fans rewind. It makes viewers ask questions. When was this filmed? Was this planned? Will they perform still again? Could this collaboration lead to another live appearance? Those questions are exactly what make a moment like this so powerful online. But it is important not to confuse excitement with confirmation. What we know is that Bruno Mars appeared during Karol G's Los Angeles shows and performed Still with her for the first time on the tour. What happens next remains a question, and that uncertainty is part of the excitement, because both artists have schedules of their own, and their careers are moving on multiple fronts at the same time. Bruno Mars is currently in another major chapter of his career with the Romantic Tour, while Karol G continues her own global touring journey. That makes their shared stage time even more valuable. It is not something fans can assume will happen every night. It is a special crossover between 2 artists whose schedules, audiences, and musical identities rarely intersect in this exact way. And Los Angeles became the place where that intersection happened. There is also something symbolic about the venue. SoFi Stadium is not an intimate club. This is a massive stadium built for enormous events. Performing there already requires an artist to command a huge physical space. Now imagine putting 2 global superstars on that stage together. The scale changes instantly. The crowd becomes part of the performance. Every camera angle becomes more dramatic. Every chorus becomes louder. Every interaction between the artists carries more weight. That is why the highlight reel feels less like a simple concert recap and more like a snapshot of a major moment in contemporary pop music. And this is where Karol G deserves enormous credit. The success of the moment depends on more than bringing out a famous guest. The artist has to create an environment where the guest appearance feels natural. Karol G's performance style allows her to move between intimate emotional moments and enormous stadium energy. And that versatility makes a collaboration like this work. Then Bruno Mars enters the equation. His performance instincts are built around rhythm, timing, charisma, and audience connection. The combination is powerful because neither artist has to completely abandon their identity. Instead, they meet in the middle. Karol G remains Karol G, Bruno Mars remains Bruno Mars, and still becomes the bridge. That is one of the most interesting aspects of this entire story. The best collaborations do not erase differences between artists. They highlight them. They allow audiences to hear familiar voices in a new context. They create a moment where two fan bases can recognize something familiar while discovering something new. And that is exactly what happened in Los Angeles. The first performance of Still during the Viajando por el Mundo Tropitour now becomes part of the tour's visual history. Fans will remember the outfits. They will remember the stage. They will remember the lights. They will remember the crowd reaction. But most importantly, they will remember seeing Karol G and Bruno Mars together. And because the moment was captured in the highlight reel, the performance can now travel far beyond the stadium. It can reach fans who were not there. It can introduce the collaboration to people who may not have followed the tour closely. It can generate conversations across social media. And it can keep the Los Angeles shows alive long after the final note was played. This is how modern concert moments become cultural moments. A performance happens once. Someone records it. The artist releases an official clip. Fans share it. News outlets discuss it. Social media amplifies it. And suddenly, what happened inside one stadium becomes part of a much larger global conversation. That cycle is happening again with Karol G and Bruno Mars. And the timing could not be more interesting. Both artists have enormous international audiences. Both have built careers around memorable performances. Both understand the importance of visual storytelling. And both have proven that a great song can cross genre and language boundaries. Still sits right at that intersection. The collaboration is able to bring together Latin music, pop, R&B, soul, and contemporary global music culture without forcing either artist into a completely different identity. That is why the live performance feels so significant. It is not just about two famous names sharing a microphone. It is about two musical worlds meeting in front of one of the largest audiences either artist could reach. And now, thanks to Karol G's highlight reel, fans can see that moment again. But perhaps the biggest question is what comes next. Will Karol G and Bruno Mars perform Still together again? Could the song appear in another major live event? Could there be additional appearances? Or will the SoFi Stadium performance remain a special one-time chapter in the story of the collaboration? Right now, there is no reason to pretend we know the answer. And maybe that is what makes the moment even more exciting. Because sometimes the most memorable performances are the ones nobody can completely predict. The Los Angeles shows gave fans the unexpected. The highlight reel preserved it. And the first live performance of Still gave the tour another unforgettable chapter. Think about what that means. 3 sold-out nights, SoFi Stadium, Karol G at the center of the stage, a massive audience, a global collaboration, and Bruno Mars appearing for a performance that fans had never seen on the tour before. That combination is difficult to manufacture. It has to happen naturally, and when it does, audiences recognize it immediately. The reaction becomes part of the story. The footage becomes part of the story. And eventually, the performance becomes one of those moments fans point back to when remembering an era. This is why the new highlight video matters. It is not simply a collection of concert clips. It is a visual record of a major stop on Karol G's Viajando por el Mundo Tropitour, a celebration of her connection with Los Angeles, and a reminder of the unexpected power of live music. And right in the middle of it is Still, Karol G and Bruno Mars, together, live, for the first time on the tour. That is the payoff. In fact, this performance could be the beginning of an entirely new conversation about what these two artists might create next. Because once fans see the chemistry between two performers on a stadium stage, the natural question becomes simple. What else could happen? For now, Karol G continues her journey with Viajando por el Mundo Tropitour, while Bruno Mars continues his own extraordinary run as one of the world's most recognizable live performers. Their schedules may take them in different directions. Their music may come from different traditions. Their audiences may have discovered them through completely different paths. But at SoFi Stadium, all of those differences disappeared for a few unforgettable minutes. There was only the music. There was only the crowd. There was only Karol G and Bruno Mars performing still together. And now, that moment belongs to the tour's history. The highlight reel has turned 3 extraordinary nights in Los Angeles into a story that can be watched around the world. So if you were waiting for proof that still could become something even bigger on the live stage, Karol G just delivered it. The collaboration has moved from the recording studio to a sold-out stadium. From a song on a track list to a live performance. From anticipation to reality. And from one collaboration to a moment that fans across 2 massive global audiences can now share. The question is no longer whether Karol G and Bruno Mars can command the same stage. They already did. Now the question is whether this unforgettable SoFi Stadium moment will become the first chapter of something even bigger. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to subscribe, turn on notifications, and stay connected for more breaking music news, Karol G updates, Bruno Mars news, live performance highlights, celebrity collaborations, and the biggest moments happening in global pop music. Because when 2 global superstars meet on one stage, you never know which moment will become the next headline. The story surrounding Karol G and Bruno Mars becomes even more fascinating when we look beyond the few minutes of performance footage and consider what that moment represents for both artists. For Karol G, Los Angeles was never going to be just another stop on the Viajando por el Mundo Tropitour. The city represents one of the most important entertainment markets in the world, a place where artists are constantly measured against enormous expectations. To sell out 3 nights at SoFi Stadium is already a statement. To then turn those nights into a celebration featuring one of the world's biggest pop performers adds another layer to the achievement. And that is exactly what makes the new highlight reel so effective. It does not simply remind fans that Karol G performed in Los Angeles. It shows why those nights mattered. The audience becomes part of the visual story. The stadium lights create a sea of movement. Karol G moves from one performance moment to another, and the atmosphere constantly changes. Then, among all those images, Bruno Mars appears. For longtime Bruno Mars fans, that visual immediately changes the entire context of the video. Because Bruno is not just another guest artist. He is an artist with an extraordinary reputation for live performances. His ability to combine choreography, musicianship, vocals, charisma, and old-school showmanship has made him one of the most recognizable performers in modern pop music. When he steps onto a stadium stage, audiences know they are about to witness something different. And when that stage belongs to Karol G, the contrast becomes even more interesting. Karol G's performance identity is deeply connected to Latin music, modern urban sounds, emotional storytelling, and a powerful connection with her fans. Bruno Mars operates across a different musical vocabulary, drawing heavily from funk, soul, R&B, pop, and classic performance traditions, yet still creates a space where those identities can coexist. That is why fans are paying such close attention to this performance. The collaboration is not simply interesting because of the names involved. It is interesting because of the musical possibilities created when those names come together. And the SoFi Stadium performance gives fans a glimpse of that possibility in its most important environment, a live stage. There is a huge difference between hearing a collaboration through headphones and seeing 2 artists perform it in front of a stadium audience. In the studio, every element can be carefully controlled. Live, anything can happen. The crowd can change the energy. The artists can react to each other. The arrangement can feel different. The timing can change. And the chemistry between performers becomes impossible to hide. That is what makes the first live performance of Still so valuable. It gives fans a completely different perspective on the collaboration. You are not simply listening to Karol G and Bruno Mars. You are watching them interpret the song together. And that visual element can completely change how an audience understands a track. Suddenly, a song that existed primarily as an audio experience becomes a memory, place, a crowd, a moment, a night in Los Angeles. That is the power of live music. And this particular moment happened at one of the most recognizable stadiums in America. SoFi Stadium has hosted some of the world's biggest sporting and entertainment events, but on these nights, the spotlight belonged to Karol G and her fans. The scale of the venue makes every visual more dramatic. When the camera pulls back, the audience seems almost endless. When the camera zooms toward Karol G, the energy becomes intimate. And when Bruno Mars enters the frame, the contrast creates another burst of excitement. This is precisely the kind of footage that works beyond the concert itself. It becomes social media material. It becomes fan discussion. It becomes reaction content. It becomes a moment people share with friends. And it becomes part of the ongoing narrative surrounding both artists. For Karol G, it reinforces her ability to bring major global stars into her musical universe. For Bruno Mars, it shows his willingness to step into a different musical environment and connect with one of the biggest names in Latin music. That crossover matters. The global music industry is becoming increasingly interconnected. Language barriers are becoming less important, genres are blending more frequently, and audiences are discovering artists from countries and cultures they may not have explored before. Karol G has played a major role in that shift. Her international success has helped demonstrate that Spanish-language music can command enormous audiences across the world. Bruno Mars, meanwhile, represents the global reach of English-language pop. When the two meet, their collaboration becomes a natural representation of how modern music travels. A song does not need to belong to only one market. An artist does not need to stay inside one genre. And a concert does not have to serve only one audience. That is one reason why the SoFi Stadium moment feels larger than a typical surprise guest appearance. It reflects where global pop culture is heading. Fans want unexpected combinations. They want artists to experiment. They want moments that feel authentic rather than manufactured. And when those moments happen in front of tens of thousands of people, the impact can be enormous. There is also a fascinating emotional component to the performance. Karol G has built a reputation for making her concerts feel personal despite their enormous scale. That is difficult to accomplish. When a stadium is filled with thousands of people, an artist can easily become visually distant from the audience. But Karol G repeatedly uses interaction, movement, visuals, and emotional storytelling to create a sense of connection. Adding Bruno Mars into that environment changes the dynamic. For the audience, it creates the feeling that they are witnessing something exclusive, something that belongs to that night. And perhaps that is why the footage feels so replayable. Fans can watch it again and again, looking for details they may have missed the first time. The expressions, the crowd reaction, the stage movement, the interaction between the two performers, the exact moment the performance reaches its emotional peak. These details become especially important when a collaboration is performed live for the first time. There is no previous tour history to compare it against. There is no established routine that fans have already seen dozens of times. Everything feels new. And newness is one of the most powerful ingredients in entertainment. It creates anticipation, creates conversation, and it creates curiosity about what might happen next. That curiosity is now surrounding still. Because after seeing Karol G and Bruno Mars perform the song together at SoFi Stadium, fans naturally begin wondering whether this performance could eventually lead to more. Could there be another live performance? Could the collaboration appear at another major event? Could the artists perform together again in a different city? Could there eventually be another song? None of those possibilities should be treated as confirmed. But they are natural questions created by the chemistry of the performance. And sometimes that is exactly how the next chapter of a music story begins. One performance creates curiosity. Curiosity creates conversation. Conversation creates demand. And demand can inspire artists to explore new ideas. For now, however, the SoFi Stadium performance should be appreciated for what it already is. A historic first live performance of Still during Karol G's tour. A major Los Angeles moment. And a rare meeting between two global superstars. The highlight reel also gives fans something else. Perspective. concerts can feel enormous when you are standing inside them, but afterward, the details can blur together. A highlight video organizes those memories. It takes 3 nights and turns them into a visual narrative. Captures the biggest reactions, the biggest performances, the biggest surprises, and, of course, the moment everyone is talking about. Bruno Mars. Still. Karol G SoFi Stadium. Those 4 elements are now permanently connected in the story of this tour. And that is something fans will likely remember long after the Viajando por el Mundo Tropitour eventually concludes. Because tours come and go. Set lists change. Venues change. Production designs evolve. But certain moments remain. A surprise appearance. A first-ever performance. A stadium full of fans reacting at exactly the same time. Those are the moments that become memories. And the new highlight reel has preserved one of them. For Karol G, the Los Angeles shows reinforced the incredible scale of her current touring era. For Bruno Mars, the appearance demonstrates once again why his presence on a stage can instantly become a headline. And for fans, the biggest winner may simply be the music itself. Because collaborations are ultimately about creating something that neither artist could create in exactly the same way alone. Still now has a live identity. It has been heard by a massive stadium audience. It has been captured on video, and it has become part of the visual history of the tour. That is a significant evolution for any song. A studio track becomes a concert moment. A concert moment becomes a highlight clip. And the highlight clip becomes part of the global conversation. That cycle is already underway. As fans continue sharing the footage and discussing the performance, the SoFi Stadium appearance will continue reaching people who were not physically there. And that is where modern music becomes incredibly powerful. A moment that lasted only a few minutes inside a stadium can continue circulating for weeks, months, and potentially years. One camera angle can become a viral clip. One reaction can become a meme. One performance can become a fan-favorite memory. And one collaboration can introduce millions of people to an artist they may not have followed before. Karol G and Bruno Mars have created exactly that kind of crossover moment. Not through controversy, not through unnecessary drama, but through music. And that might be the most important part of the entire story. At a time when celebrity headlines often move faster than the music itself, the most powerful headline here is remarkably simple. 2 global artists shared a stage. They performed still. And the audience witnessed something that had never happened on the tour before. That is enough. The rest is history being written in real time. So as fans continue watching Karol G's new Los Angeles highlight reel, one thing is clear. The Viajando por el Mundo Tropitour has added another unforgettable chapter to its story. And somewhere inside that chapter is a performance that may eventually be remembered as one of the tour's defining moments. Karol G and Bruno Mars. Still. Live at SoFi Stadium. For the first time. And perhaps the most exciting question is not what happened that night. We already know. The real question is what this moment could inspire next. Because when 2 artists with this level of global influence share a stage and the chemistry works, fans naturally start imagining the possibilities. For now, there is no confirmed next chapter. But there is a performance. There is the footage. There is the reaction. And there is a song that has now crossed another important line. Still is no longer just a collaboration people can stream. It is now a live memory. A stadium memory. A Karol G and Bruno Mars